What's going on, guys? Today I am going to be making a response video for Cylentgamer. He recently put up a video about him being on the fence about getting a Nintendo Switch. His justification for not getting one was, well, he has the Wii U and he likes the console, and a lot of the ports, and make no mistake, a lot of the ports from the Wii U are getting re-released on the Switch because the Wii U flopped big time, and a lot of people didn't get to play some of these high-quality games that were on the Wii U, and trust me, there were a lot of them. Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze was the most recent one, with Hyrule Warriors as well. Those games never really got the exposure that they deserved, but now with the massive hit that is the Switch, they're getting a lot of these titles re-released. And a lot of what he's saying makes me believe that the Switch is not for him, because he's not going to be able to take advantage of the system's biggest selling point, which is it's the portability aspect of it. But I'm going to try my best to sell it to him, because this is the best system I've ever had, and I've had a lot of systems throughout the years. So we're going to go through a lot of points here about we're going to go through the negatives and the positives, of course, but we're going to go through the points about where I think the Switch is worth having. Alright, let's get to it. Okay, the first thing I'm going to say about the Switch is it is a retro and arcade gamer's paradise. And if you grew up in the 80s and early 90s, then you will really cling to what this console offers. Neo Geo is releasing just about every title they've had on the Switch. So arcade perfect fighting games and shoot 'em ups and stuff like that. They are just saturated on the Switch. And Nintendo is also doing some of theirs as well with their Punch Out and their Mario Brothers versus. I mean, these are games that were on the arcades, but they're being ported onto the Switch, and now you have a portable arcade and a home console, because this is a hybrid console. So you can play it on the TV, or you can play it, of course, handheld or tabletop, vertical. There's a lot of variety of how you can play this game. I mean, this system. This system is so versatile, and that's the biggest selling point, I think, is how versatile the console is. You can use a variety of controllers. You can split the Joy-Cons off the sides, and I know Virtual said that he didn't like the Joy-Cons, but I was skeptical at first too, but boy, oh boy, have I taken to them. It's very good for aiming. It's almost like you have a mouse and keyboard at your command, but it's in a portable, package. It's really, really satisfying, and I'll display some of that in a little bit. So the second point I want to talk about is, in addition to being like a retro gamer's paradise and arcade gamer's paradise, it's an indie machine. It's an absolute indie machine. This is the definition of an indie machine. Indie developers are clamoring to be on this console. In fact, some of them just completely are bypassing Steam and going straight to the Switch. Golf Story is a example of this. You can't get this game anywhere else. It's a very good game. It kind of reminds you of Earthbound mixed in with Mario RPG Golf and stuff like that. I mean, it's very, very good game. It's one of the best indie titles on the system. And the developer himself said that Steam was too saturated and he would never get noticed on Steam. So he went straight to the Switch. I'll show you a clip here of Jim Sterling talking about this right here.
Another exclusive indie is Golf Story. Though interestingly, that one started in development for the Wii U. Developer Sidebar told me that Nintendo seemed very indie-friendly and accepting of unknown companies, and it seemed like Wii would have a better chance of getting noticed there. When the Switch all but replaced the Wii U, Sidebar applied for the Switch license, got accepted, and continued to make what turned out to be a very strange but very endearing little game that I seriously need to play more of. Sidebar added that the Switch seems to have turned into a really popular indie indie device and cites that popularity as a potential reason for Golf Story's own considerable success. I don't think Nintendo are pushing harder now for strong indie titles than before. There have been good indie titles on earlier systems as well, Sigurgesson told me. I'm so sorry if I've butchered your name. The difference is they're now getting prominent titles from smaller devs that have previously shunned their hardware without having to try very hard. Many devs and publishers want to be on the Switch. This sentiment was backed up by, God help me, Philip Doschel of FDG Entertainment, whose upcoming game Blossom Tales was announced as a Switch exclusive. Here's what he had to say. Why the exclusivity? Switch is still rather new and hot. Everybody speaks about it, it's longing for games to play. Switch has become a good home for games as it doesn't suffer under its own success, as does Steam. The eShop is still a very healthy ecosystem, whereas Steam just seems to be a big risk and gamble nowadays. This view has certainly been shared somewhat by Bjansjörg, why did I write that so many times, who agreed that Steam's crowded marketplace has been a blessing to the Switch and those developers getting onto the platform. When I asked if there was a benefit to getting out of that Steam crowd, he said yes, definitely.
An interesting side note here. FG Entertainment, the ones that did the Switch exclusive for consoles, the Blossom Tales Zelda type clone, and their company was saved by the Switch sales. They said that it sold 20 times more on the Switch than it did on Steam. And that's why he said Steam is such a big risk, because it's so hard to get noticed there. The saturation is too high. You'll get buried behind so many things. And the Switch is hot and new, and indies want to be on it. So if you're worried about not having support from a lot of devs and publishers and stuff, that's not going to be the case. So that's another reason to get the Switch, because it's going to have a lot of exclusive indie titles like Golf Story and others that you may not be able to see otherwise. I mean, there's so many games that you might miss out on that are really good games. And of course, the third-party support has been strong from publishers, and you got Bethesda here. They're fixing to release Wolfenstein 2, even though it's a little late to the party. It's going to have, some Switch controls like the gyro aiming, which I'm smitten with that feature, because it's so good. It's so good to have, high fidelity aiming in these first-person shooters. Consoles are stuck with the sticks, and after playing on PC, I just can't go back. I can't go back after playing on the PC. But the gyro aiming gives you the best of both worlds. You have the console convenience, and you have the high fidelity aiming that you would get with the mouse and keyboard. It's that kind of versatility that I'm stressing again with the Switch that you can't get anywhere else. Alright, now we're going to get to the biggest selling point of the Switch, is obviously the portability aspect of it. Now, I know that Virtual Footballer said that this part does not appeal to him. He's not that kind of gamer. He just likes to sit home, and that's fair, because, a lot of gamers just want to sit on their TV and, play games on the console and on the couch and all that. And you can do that with the Switch too, but the thing about the Switch is it's very accessible to adults with busy lives, and people that can't game as much as they'd like to before. If they have more responsibilities now, they have kids, they have work and all this, and they don't have time to game, But now, you could be waiting in the doctor's office and pull out the Switch and play some Shovel Knight. That's what I did. I was waiting for 3 hours, and I was like, you know what? I was waiting for somebody to get done with surgery, and I'm like, I'm just going to do some grinding here and play some Shovel Knight. Things that, you would do that were tedious grinds in a game, like, oh, I got to grind for this set of armor or whatever. Well, I did it, while waiting at the doctor's office, waiting at the hospital. I mean, it lends itself so well to people's lives now. It's so convenient, and that is why it's selling so well. And you could just be waiting for your kids to get home from school, waiting to pick them up in line, and there's long lines, and just pull out the Switch. I did that the other day. Pull out the Switch, play some games, wait. You ain't gonna be doing nothing else sitting in the car. Might as well. But that's just another thing I think is the biggest selling point of the Switch for me is the portability aspect of it. It's just so convenient. It is the most convenient console that you can have. I mean, yeah, you can play it in handheld. You can break off the Joy-Cons, play some Mario Kart with somebody else next to you that doesn't even have a Switch because it's each one is this individual controller. Now I know that Virtual said he didn't like the Joy-Cons, but they're very easy to get used to. I was very surprised, and the gyro aiming for the right Joy-Con is so satisfying. You can still use it with the Pro Controller, the gyro aiming, but it's better with the split Joy-Cons because you can do more movement, horizontal movement as well. But you get the vertical movement is where it gets the shine from. You can fine tune your aim and all that, and we're going to get to that next. All right, so we're going to show some examples here. I'm going to use the split Joy-Cons. I'm using the split Joy-Cons. I'm using the control stick right here. As you can see, I'm moving left to right. And I'm still using the stick here. Now I'm going to switch to gyro controls. Now look how slow and accurate I can move it. I can move it to the left, to the right, as slow as I want or as fast as I want. And I'll demonstrate that right here. You can go fast. You can shake it really fast. See how I'm shaking it so quickly, almost like you're using a mouse. And you just cannot get that with other systems. This is so convenient, so awesome to have this kind of aiming on the go or wherever you are. I mean, it's such a joy to play a game like Doom, and that's why I play this version more than the PC version, even though the PC version has a mouse and keyboard. But I can't take my PC wherever I go. And let me just demonstrate again. I'm going to switch to pistol here. Want a headshot in this game? Child's play. So, the software is a big issue. A lot of people think, that the Switch is not going to get third-party support, but it's getting a lot more than it had with the Wii U. But Nintendo's really always been about their first-party titles. And you have Mario Odyssey, you have ARMS, you have Splatoon, you have Smash Brothers coming out this year, you have Metroid Prime in the works, you have the new Pokemon. If you're into that thing, I'm not. But, it's a big-time seller. You got the new Mario Tennis game that's going to be pretty cool. But to be perfectly honest, the indie titles have spent more time in my Switch than anything. Even more than the first party titles. Games like Golf Story and all these the Steam World Digs, and there's just so many good games on the Switch. Yes, you can get some of them on the PC, but there are some that you can't, like Blaster Master Zero. I'm going to show some footage of that game here coming up. Golf Story, these games are worth having a Switch, in my opinion. I know Virtual said that he was going to, he really wanted to play Mario Odyssey, and it is a system seller, but you got the new Smash Brothers coming out, like I said. You got the Bayonetta series on here. You get the new Bayo 3. There's games to be had on here. And there's more coming. Every day I go to the eShop and I see something new pop up. It's not as saturated as Steam, but it is getting kind of some lower tier pieces of crap titles coming up there. So the quality control is getting less and less. It started out really good, but I'm starting to see some less titles creep up there. But no system is perfect, and the Switch is certainly not perfect, which gets me to some of the negatives that we're going to talk about. Obviously, he mentioned the storage space is an issue. You have to buy SD cards. I bought a 150, I think, gig the first time, and I'm still got space left, but I'm fixing to get another one. I buy physical whenever I can for the main big titles, but some of the indie titles, they can't afford to put out the physical, but some do, and the ones that they do, I definitely support by buying that too, because it's like a luxury to have the physical copies of games these days. Alright, I'm going to just go through my list here and recommend some games that I really, really think people should play. I'm going to try to keep this as exclusive as I can, but there's a lot of titles that I've double dipped on and whatever. So let's just go through my list here. We got Lego City Undercover. That came out on the Wii U. You got Rayman Legends Definitive Edition. That came out on the Wii U. Here's ARMS. That's an exclusive to the Switch. It's like a boxing, well, I'm sure you know about it. It's like a boxing game with arms stretching out. You got Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, but of course he has the Wii U version. Ultra Street Fighter 2, the Final Challengers. It's going to be kind of redundant because the 30th anniversary is coming out soon, but this is a Switch exclusive, I do believe. Let's see, of course you know about Zelda. Shovel Knight's a great indie title. Binding of Isaac's a great indie title. Of course, these are the definitive versions, which you can get these on Steam too. But the games that come on the Switch are always DLC included, so you're going to get the best version of each one. Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle is actually a very surprising game. It surprised me. Definitely didn't see that one coming. It's like an XCOM type game. You got Minecraft if you're into that. I just bought this for my nephew because he likes to play it, but I have no interest in Minecraft whatsoever. Let's see. Resident Evil Revelations 1 and 2 are on the Switch. Those are great games. And then, of course, they implement the gyro aiming, which I cannot stress is good. Is so good. Axiom Verge, a great game. It's like a Metroid type clone, but it's very well polished. Of course, you got the Metal Slug games here. These are great games. Let's see. Some of these are like phone games, like League of Legends or League of Evil. This is like a Zelda clone. It'll do two of her good things. I actually bought the physical copy of this. Here's a game right here. You can play this on PC or whatever, but just play this one. The Mummy Demastered is a great game. I've recommended it many times. Let's see. Tumble Seas is actually a very hard game. It's a roguelite, but it's so hard. I've never beat the second level on this one. Of course, I haven't put too much time into it. You got all these Neo Geo shmups. You got Alpha Mission, Blazing Star, Last Resort. Fast RMX is actually a very decent racing game. Bayonetta 1 and 2 are on the Switch right now. You can get the third one coming out sometime probably next year. I'm not sure. They haven't released a date yet. Of course, you have this one, Sonic Mania. You can get this on other platforms, but of course, can't beat portability, in my opinion. Gunbird. I had never heard about this game until the Switch. See, that's another thing. A lot of these Neo Geo and arcade games I never even heard of until they came to the Switch. So this is a good one, a good shmup here. Strikers, this 1945 1 and 2. These are super hard games. Soul Divide is an excellent game if you like shmups because it gives you like a fantasy and a melee integrated into like a shmup. It's actually very interesting. Zero Gunner was on the the Dreamcast. Skyrim, what can we say that hasn't been said about this one? Darkest Dungeon, that's a good game that came from the PC. It's a very hard game though. Of course, you got your Outlast, your Super Meat Boys. Stardew Valley is a cult following on that one, big time. If you're into those farm type simulators. And there's the aforementioned Blaster Master Zero. Highly recommend this one. If you're going to get a Switch, this is one of the first games you should buy. This and Golf Story. Those two are just absolutely, they're gems. They're absolute gems. Of course, you have these arcade archives. Some of these by Nintendo. This is Punch-Out. Not nearly as good as the NES version, though. Here's another shmup that I had never heard of, Dragon Blaze. He might be into that one. Enter the Gungeon's a great game. SteamWorld Dig 2, of course, we've heard about that one. This is the game that saved that company from going under. It was that Zelda clone that sold 20 times more on the Switch than the PC. Wild Guns Reloaded. This is a Super Nintendo remake. It came on the PlayStation 4 last year. It's finally on the Switch now with some extra features. No gyro aiming, which was a huge letdown for me, but I guess it'd be kind of hard to implement on this one. Of course, you got your NBA 2Ks. Still no Madden on the Switch. I would definitely buy Madden on the Switch. I would definitely buy it day one. Shantae, these are kind of platformers that have got their own cult following. Goner is an excellent roguelite, but very hard. This one's very good. Immortal Redneck. If you hadn't played this one, it's a first-person shooter roguelite. It's got some issues with the Joy-Cons right now. The developer's trying to fix it. So I'm using the Pro Controller. It still has gyro aiming, which is excellent. This is your Final Fight reimagining. Let's see. This one is actually very good too. The Robot Named Fight. It's a Metroid clone with roguelite elements. This is a Switch exclusive actually. Garage. It's a top-down zombie shooter. You've seen those. This is actually pretty good atmosphere in this one. I like this one. Little Nightmares. I showed you the trailer earlier for that one. Here is the gem. Golf Story and Graceful Explosion Machine. These two are really good. Of course, you got your Tropical Freezes. Hyrule Warriors, another good one. Mario Odyssey, what hadn't been said about that one. Doom is probably my favorite game on the Switch, to be perfectly honest. I put more hours into this one than anything else. Over 100 hours in Doom on the Switch. So that's it, guys. I just wanted to give, not just Virtual, but anybody that's on the fence about getting a Switch, to really to think about it and to really consider it, because it's my favorite console of all time, and I've owned almost all consoles except for, I wasn't much into the PlayStations or the Genesises, but I had all the Nintendo consoles, the Xboxes, and all that, and this is my favorite console of all time. I'm saying that emphatically now. So, hope you guys enjoyed, and pick up a Switch. It's hotter now more than ever, especially with Smash Brothers coming out this year. I'll see you guys next time.